Before we begin, take a moment and look around you. If you're watching this late at night, tell me in the comments what time it is where you are and where you're watching from. Because the stories you're about to hear didn't happen in abandoned forests or haunted mansions. They happened in airports, places filled with light, security, crowds, and constant surveillance. Places where thousands of people move every hour, and yet, people still disappear. Sometimes they vanish between terminals. Sometimes they board planes that should never have taken off. And sometimes, they encounter things that no radar can detect. Tonight, we examine 3 disturbing airport horror stories. Stories told quietly by night shift workers, security officers, and travelers who wish they had never taken that flight. These stories are not told loudly, because the people who experience them often stopped talking afterward. The man who never boarded the airport was nearly empty. It was close to 2:40 in the morning, the quietest hour of the night. The fluorescent lights hummed faintly above the polished terminal floors. Cleaning crews moved slowly between rows of empty chairs. Outside the massive glass windows, the runway stretched into darkness. Only a few aircraft remained parked under distant floodlights. Most flights had already departed, but one gate still waited. Gate C-17, the last flight of the night. A routine international departure. Passengers had already begun boarding. Everything was normal, except for one man. He had been sitting alone near the gate for nearly 3 hours. Airport security noticed him first. He wore a dark coat despite the warm temperature inside the terminal. His posture was stiff, unmoving. His eyes remained fixed on the runway outside. Not once did he look at his phone. Not once did he stand up. He simply sat there, watching the darkness. Eventually, a gate attendant approached him. "Sir," she said gently, "boarding has begun." The man turned slowly. His eyes were red, not tired, not irritated, just red, as if he had been staring into wind for days. Without speaking, he handed her his boarding pass. The attendant scanned it. Everything looked normal, but something about the man felt wrong. Still, airports see thousands of strangers every day. Odd behavior is nothing new, so she waved him through. He walked down the jet bridge. The plane was almost full. Passengers settled into their seats. Cabin lights dimmed. The doors closed. The aircraft pushed back from the gate. But just before taxiing, a flight attendant noticed something strange. Seat 24A. The man's seat. It was empty. The attendant checked the passenger manifest. His name was there. She checked with the gate crew. Yes, he had boarded. Security footage later confirmed it. They saw him walk down the jet bridge. But here's the problem. The aircraft had only one entrance, and he never walked back out. The plane was searched before takeoff. Bathrooms, overhead compartments, storage areas. Nothing. The man had vanished. Some believe he hid somewhere impossible. Others think the footage was corrupted. But one airport employee who reviewed the tape claims something else entirely. When the man reached the end of the jet bridge, just before the aircraft door, the lights flickered for less than a second. When the lights returned, the man was gone. No exit, no explanation, just an empty corridor and a boarding pass that was never used. To this day, security still cannot explain how someone could enter a sealed jet bridge and simply stop existing. The runway walker night shifts at airports are quiet, too quiet. Most workers prefer the day, but some jobs exist only in darkness. Runway inspection, maintenance crews, radar technicians. One such worker was assigned to runway 3 during a winter storm inspection. The night was bitterly cold. Wind howled across the empty airfield. Snow blew sideways under the runway lights. Visibility was poor, but inspections had to continue. Aircraft were scheduled to land in a few hours. The worker drove slowly along the runway in a small inspection vehicle. His headlights cut through the snow. Then, he saw someone walking in the middle of the runway. At first, he assumed it was another worker, but something immediately felt wrong. Airport staff are required to wear bright reflective gear. This person wore none, just dark clothing, and they were walking slowly, directly toward the vehicle. The worker slowed down. The figure kept walking. Step, step, step. No urgency, no reaction to the vehicle's lights. When the truck stopped about 20 meters away, the figure finally looked up. The worker later said he would never forget the face, because there was no expression. Not fear, not anger, nothing. Just a blank stare. The worker stepped out of the truck and shouted. No response. The figure continued walking, straight past the vehicle, straight toward the runway lights. Then something impossible happened. As the figure passed beneath the light pole, their body faded into the falling snow. Not quickly, not suddenly, slowly, like smoke dissolving in the air. The worker stood frozen. The runway was empty again. Security searched the entire airfield. No footprints beyond a few meters. No access logs. No missing personnel. Nothing. But several radar technicians later reviewed the airfield recordings. For 3 minutes, something appeared on the ground radar. A moving shape, walking, alone, across the runway. The flight that landed twice, Flight 372, departed normally. Weather conditions were clear, passengers relaxed, cabin lights dimmed. The journey was routine, until the pilots noticed something strange on the radar. A second aircraft, flying directly behind them, at the exact same altitude, matching their speed perfectly. At first, they assumed it was another commercial flight, but air traffic control confirmed something disturbing. There were no aircraft scheduled anywhere near them. The radar contact remained, following them, for nearly 30 minutes. Then, it disappeared. The pilots assumed it was a radar malfunction, until they landed. Ground crews began routine inspections. Passengers disembarked. Everything seemed normal, except for one detail. Air traffic control records showed something impossible. Flight 372 had already landed, 20 minutes earlier, at the same airport, the same runway, with the same call sign. Security footage confirmed it. An aircraft with the exact same number taxied to the gate earlier that night, but the aircraft had vanished from the gate before anyone boarded. No passengers, no crew. See, just an empty plane that disappeared before sunrise. And yet, hours later, Flight 372 landed again, with hundreds of passengers on board, passengers who had no memory of anything unusual, except for one woman seated near the rear of the plane. She told investigators something strange. During the flight, she looked out the window and saw another aircraft flying beside them, so close she could see inside. Inside that plane, she saw rows of passengers, all sitting perfectly still, all staring straight forward, none of them moving, none of them blinking, none of them alive. Airports never truly sleep. Even when terminals empty, something remains awake. Cameras record, radar scans the skies, runways stretch into darkness, and sometimes they capture things that shouldn't be there. People who never board. Figures that walk where no one should be. Flights that land twice. Most travelers will never notice. Most flights remain ordinary. But the night shift workers, the security staff, the radar technicians, they sometimes see things that make them question what really moves through airports after midnight. And once you hear these stories, the next time you sit at a gate, waiting for your flight, you might wonder something. Who else is waiting in the terminal with you? Subscribe to Shadowed Screams Horror now and join our growing community of horror enthusiasts. Hit the notification bell to never miss a chilling upload, because the shadows are watching and the screams are only beginning.